Hello friends, Tom Downey here for Chat Sports presented by BetDSI, and today I am joined by Brent Korobotic, the head risk manager over at BetDSI, here to talk a little bit NFL action. We got some spreads, some over-unders, all that good stuff. So Brent, I want to talk about what I think is the premier game of the week, and frankly, if not the regular season, the Chiefs and the Rams, and in particular, this game was going to be played in Mexico City. Now it's played in Los Angeles. What kind of havoc did that cause for you guys as bookmakers, and how has it adjusted the line?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you have to look at is what you do with those wagers, and I think it's kind of like just standard industry policy that when the location changes such that it did this week, you've got to delete all those bets, because obviously the home field advantage or neutral site obviously changes the line. Now, it is quite interesting that with this number, I really expected it to open much higher. The Rams, the neutral site game, you want to call it, at Mexico City, they were a 2.5-point favorite. And you figure, so going home, generally in the NFL, home field is worth roughly 3 points. It's just kind of a general rule to start with. The Rams really, looking at their home field so far this season, now they're undefeated, right, 5-0, so you figure they would be worth at least 3 points. But really, LA really hasn't kind of been much of a home field advantage for the Rams so far, and that's why you see this number where it is right now at 3.5 instead of a much higher number. I would have thought, based on just standard numbers, that would have opened around 4.5, but it's a reflection of two things: that the Rams' home field really isn't as strong that it is for other teams in the league, and the fact that these two teams obviously are really quite close in terms of what's going to happen on the field. Now, they're a 2.5-point favorite at Mexico. Now they're at home, and it's only at 3.5, so really quite surprising for me that number didn't open a little bit higher. I did have this number pegged at 4.5. I thought that was the right opening number. And again, the idea is that we're trying to balance action here. Now, just based on the function of that's your rule, you're trying to balance action, I would have been off the mark on that one, Tom, simply because my wager count so far since we reopened this number at 3.5 and total still 63.5, I've got a wager count almost 8-1 favoring the Chiefs, so money just pouring in on the Chiefs. You're talking about the two best teams in the league right now at 9-1. But the Rams' home field advantage I thought would have been a stronger indication. The total as well is one that I actually personally got invested in with the under 63.5 when that game was at Mexico City. Now, my rationale for that was just I thought these young quarterbacks were going to have a bit of a hard time adjusting to the altitude there, just the ball traveling more. It's kind of like in baseball with the Colorado thing, where the ball travels further. Same thing with the throws, so you're going to get a little more air under that ball. I thought it might take them a little while longer to adjust. I also thought that both teams might run the ball a little bit more being in Mexico City, so that eats up more clock and stuff like that. So I thought I was getting great value on the under 63.5, and then maybe I was. But now we're on back in LA. All those things are out the window at 63.5. I mean, it seems like a massive total for me. Like, these are NFL teams. How do you not go under a number that high? But really, they put up so many points. It's crazy, these teams. I mean, they're so high scoring. Both of them have a lot of suspect or question marks on the defense. So 63.5, really, as much as I love the under 63.5 personally at the Mexico City game, I don't like this number at all. I won't touch it. My wager count on the total itself just slightly favors the over. So again, we kind of, these Chiefs and Rams, when you think about what's a number on a total I can put up that's going to be high enough, is kind of what you're starting with. Not like what's the right number in terms of what they're going to do on the field. What number is high enough, because you're going to get over money, and we kind of hit the mark, I think, with the 63.5. Haven't had to budge my number at all. Just slightly more bets on the over. No sharp money involved on the under at all so far in this one. But I think that's something kind of to look for closer to game time, is what happens both on the spread and total of these numbers, Tom. And the reason I say that is because we kind of have I guess undervalued the Rams' home field advantage, only giving it basically like a point, which I think is a little bit light, and my wager count is so heavy towards the Chiefs. So if you see this number from 3.5 go up towards 4, you're going to know that sharp money came involved in that. Also with the total, if you see this number go down, you can probably assume that sharp money drove that, just because the public tends to bet these games over.
That makes sense there. All right, folks, you can bet on this game right now at chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. It is the best deal out there. Again, chatsports.com/bet, promo code LIVE120. Also available to bet right now are some Super Bowl 53 odds. And Brent, as I look through these, I see four, I think, the more clear-cut favorites right now: the Rams, the Saints, the Chiefs, and the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say, like, since I can remember, the term I used to say is this is probably the first time since Jesus was a boy that the Patriots weren't favored to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it just hardly ever happens. But that's really a reflection of the new reality in terms of New England having lost 3 out of 10 games so far. That's almost unheard of. But New England's on the bye this week, so we'll see what happens with them. But really, a shock to see New England losing the 3 games so far this season. They've always been kind of head and shoulders above everyone else. But you also kind of wait when are age and all these things going to keep catch up to them, and when are all the coaches defecting? When is that going to catch up to them as well? It's interesting to note perhaps that 2 of the 3 losses for New England were against former coaches in New England under Belichick. So the Rams, I mean, they're plus 350 right now. I've got New Orleans 400, Chiefs plus 500, New England at 650, which I think is kind of a reasonable grouping of where these teams are now. Rams and Chiefs play this week, so we'll get a good indication of those two. And also you look at the Saints and the Rams, how close they are. The Rams only lost 1 game so far this season, and that game, lo and behold, was to the Saints as well. And I think kind of one of the things with the Saints, people kind of get the impression they kind of have the idea that New Orleans doesn't have a decent defense just because you're going back in terms of all the history in terms of how they do defensively. But if you look at the Rams point differential, points for and against, they're a plus 104. Kansas City's plus 113, and New Orleans is right up there with them. I think they're like a plus 98 or plus 100 as well. So New Orleans is right there in terms of how they've done these other teams defensively. So the Rams maybe are not the best defensive team in the league. The Saints perhaps not, and the Chiefs either. So I think those 3 teams really are grouped together. Obviously you're always scared of New England out there. Pittsburgh obviously is a decent team. They're always up there. They haven't missed a beat without that running back, or that guy who decided he doesn't want to play football anymore and get paid millions for it. So the Chargers are one of those sneaky favorites as well. I think they're down to like 12-1 right now, and the Chargers just seem like you could really throw them in, and they basically, I give the Chargers a chance to beat any of these teams. So throw them all up in a ball, and I think we got a real good mix in terms of who those favorites are. Vikings have been a bit of a disappointment so far this season, but that offense, probably can get, clicking as well. And the Bears have been, really surprising. I think no one expected this, and you're kind of waiting with the quarterback there with Trubisky. You're waiting for him to kind of fall on his face, and he just doesn't do it. And they've traditionally had a solid defense as well. So that game this week between Minnesota and Chicago, I think, is going to be really a good tell on both these teams on how good they are.
Let's talk about the NFL sharp bets this week, where the money is coming in early. And I want to make note of one game in particular because it jumped out to me, the Vikings and the Bears. So Brent, what kind of action have you seen on that game, and what else do you have going on this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's it can be a great test for both these teams, and we'll get a good idea in terms of figuring out who's the better of these 2 teams. Now, again, I've touched on earlier how home field in the NFL is usually worth 3 points, and that wasn't reflected in the line move with the location change with the Rams-Kansas City game. But you're taking a look at Chicago right now as a minus 2.5 point favorite, maybe 2.5 in juice, which reflects that basically on a neutral field this game is a pick 'em, and I think that's an accurate representation. Minnesota 5-3-1, I guess they are. Chicago 6-3, and they've won 3 straight games. So this game's going to be big in terms of who wins that division, and also give a good idea in terms of who's really the better team there. I mean, Green Bay, you kind of expect more of them. They're sitting at 4-1, so they're behind as well. So this would be if Minnesota wins this game, they're probably going to put some distance between them as well. So it's quite an interesting game. I do have sharp money on this one. Now, unfortunately for me, I've got public money going the same way as the sharps in this game. Sharp money came in on Minnesota when the line was +3, so I got sharp money on Minnesota +3. Since I moved down to 2.5, I still got a little more money coming in on Minnesota. My wager count isn't too bad. It's about 1.5 times favoring the Vikings, so I'm getting public money there as well. But sharp money came in on Minnesota +3. One of those teams where if I could get the number 2.5 with Houston. Now, Houston was a 2.5 point favorite where sharp money came in. They're on the road at Washington. And if I could lay 2.5, if I could lay the 2.5 minus 110 on Houston, I think I would do that now. Now we're sitting at -3 on Houston, a solid number 3. And I don't think I would do that now just because the difference between 2.5 and 3, obviously 3 is the most common scoring outcome in an NFL football game. And, we touched on how kind of like a sneaky 6-3. The Redskins are, even though they like last week they gave up a ton of yards to to Tampa Bay. So that offense too. I mean, Alex Smith just doesn't seem to have clicked yet with that offense. So I'm kind of suspect with Washington now. Houston is on the road as a 3-point favorite. I think that's really quite telling. My wager count involved in this game is about 2-1 favoring the Texans, so I've got public money on them as well. One total to throw at you is the Tennessee Indianapolis game. Over 48 is where that sharp money came, and we've got that number all the way up to what are we up to now? 49 and a half is where I am right now. So sharp money on the over 48 in the Tennessee Colts game. My wager count favoring the over is well about 3-1. And again, generally speaking, the public like to bet the over, and they did it in this game as well. I've got Philadelphia at New Orleans. There's another over, and again, no surprise when public money comes in on the over with New Orleans. That's been happening for years and years now. This number's gone from 54 all the way up to 56, so that's quite a substantial move.
Yeah.
And, Philadelphia, obviously you know about New Orleans offense, but Philadelphia, again, their defensive injuries look like it's going to come back to bite them. Looks like they've been hurt again in the secondary, so that's something to look for. They've had a heck of a time defending running backs out of the backfield, like a guy like Kamara who can catch the ball out of the backfield, given the Eagles' fits this season. So you got a really high spread, in my opinion, of 8.5, but I think it's justified. Sharp money, though, was on the over 54. And a real sneaky favorite here, I think, is Arizona. You look at them last week, how they really hung tough with Kansas City on the road last week, and they just kind of looking at the makeup of these two teams, just night and day in terms of Arizona, where they're going, looking ahead, whereas where Oakland seems to be falling apart at the seams. I mean, their dressing room seems to be falling apart. Their offensive line seemed to be just not wanting to protect Carr at all. So Arizona, this is I guess it's like the second time all season they've been a favorite, and they're a favorite now of 5.5. I took sharp money on this game at -4, so there is real value on that number. I think some places open at 3.5 with juice, and they got bet up right away. We're all the way, like I said, all the way up to 5.5 now. Arizona -4. And I think, too, with Leftwich, since he came in and helped out, that whole offense has done a lot better. They kind of made a commitment to giving Johnson the ball and feeding the rock to Fitzgerald when they have to throw. So I think one of those kind of sneaky favorites is Arizona. And I think basically just on the mentality of these teams, it really does look like the Raiders are kind of packed it in. One of the surprising things for me, Tom, is with respect to Gruden, you really don't hear a whole lot about him anymore. I mean, he used to be such a persona. He used to be loud and everything, and I guess this season's really taken its toll on him as well. But sharp money on the Cardinals this week, and not often I'm going to have to be able to say that.
All right, folks, you can get on this action at BetDSI. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code LIVE120. That gets you a 120% deposit bonus. There is not a better deal out there. Again, chatsports.com/bet, promo code LIVE120. And Brent, thank you so much for stopping by.
Appreciate having me on, Tom. Have a great weekend.
You too.